Okay, so going on with the Spring framework, let's just see what we learned that. So I'm gonna give these notes to you. This would be helpful to you as well. I mean, these are the points that we discussed. Just I'm jotting down those points. So I mean, this is I mean what we learned that why we need a Spring framework because there was a tight coupling between the classes, right? So there was tight coupling. Let's say if I've got a student class and let's say I've got a department
Yeah.
and then I've got a student. So these both the entities are dependent on each other. Let's say if I want to call a method from department, let's say if this is having a method called get names, so something like that. And in the student I need to create, so I need to create an object of department, right? This is what we discussed.
Yes.
And then I told you that in the student class I would be d dot and get name something like this. Okay, so this would be a tight coupling scenario that we see that is present before the introduction of Spring Framework. Okay, so I mean, and I told you that in Spring there is a concept called IOC container. So this is how we created objects. This is and how we create objects in Java. This is the way. And so
Yeah.
this thing now is being managed by IOC container. So IOC container is used for assembling, instantiating, and configuring objects for us. Okay, and we have got two types of IOC container, application context, bean, factory. Okay, so these are the application context that would be making the application loose coupled. Rather than
Yeah.
this, we would be making so decoupling of classes. And when we decouple the classes, it would make the code readable and understandable, and obviously easy to test.
Yeah.
Yeah. And integration with other frameworks is very comes very handy. We will see in the further classes. And next would be, I mean, it's a rapid application development. So development would be fast in the Spring framework, and it would give us strong abstraction. So do you know what is abstraction in Java?
Yeah. It is used to hide
Yeah.
mm, the functionality from the user.
Yeah, so I mean, if there is a functionality that we only want to keep it to the application, don't want the end user to know that what logic is going on behind the application.
Yeah.
So I mean, Spring Framework helps in a strong extraction. Okay, so
Okay.
hiding for the end user. Okay, so these were the advantages, and this is what we learned that the IOC container, which is called application context and bean factory. So how this would be operating? So I mean, I'll tell you when we would be looking into application context will load the object at runtime. So only at runtime the application will load the object for us.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, and another thing that you want to just check if you are going for any interviews or anything. So they would ask you if you are using two application contexts. So what is the difference between bean factory and application context? Since both would be responsible to both are responsible to instantiate the objects for us. So I mean, I'll just put that. So the bean factory loads would be loading the beans on demand. And
Okay.
what the application context would be doing, it would be loading all the beans at the startup of the applications. Okay, so this is a major difference. So we'll not be using bean factory. I mean, this is not used these days, but this is the difference that you should know. So bean factory loads the bean at runtime, while application context loads all the bean at startup of the application. So for I'll say advantages. What was the problem? Okay, so I mean, I told you this coupling and everything, we would be making the code loosely coupled.